This video goes over the climbing iceberg. This iceberg is generally focused on the more sensationalized, interesting topics around climbing, especially climbing media. Also a small warning, as especially the later entries are graphic and contain sensitive topics. Alex Honnold is climbing's biggest personality and has been for a while, known for climbing without ropes and being a humble, nice guy. Magnus Midtbø is the biggest online climbing influencer, a previous professional climber turned entrepreneur and business owner. Climbing was introduced to the Olympics in Tokyo 2020, where speed climbing, bouldering and lead climbing were all combined. 2020 is often looked at as a failure or disappointment, as especially speed climbing is way different than the other two disciplines. This forced lead and boulderers to train for speed, and speed to train for lead and boulder. None of the elite climbers had much experience in all disciplines. In Paris 2024, things became better where only boulder and lead were combined and speed got its own medal. Finally, for the upcoming LA 2028, also boulder and lead will be separated. IFSC competition clips are doing insane numbers on Reels, TikToks and other short-form content. I believe this is one of the most common ways people are introduced to the sport nowadays. The Raboutous are a generational climbing family consisting of Didier, the father, a previous world champion climber, and the mother Robin, also a world champion climber, the daughter Brooke, Olympic medalist and 9B+ climber, and the son Sean Raboutous, who is a V17 boulderer. V3 in my gym is probably the biggest climbing meme ever. Posting any climb on social media will lead to some iteration of this comment. I think everyone who has touched climbing social media understands this one, so luckily I won't have to stoop so low as to explain a meme. With the rise of 3D printers, outside boulders have been scanned and 3D printed so climbers can practice on their project at home or at the gym, famously done on burden. As technology and accessibility improves, I believe this will become more and more common, especially at the elite level. Sewing machine leg or Elvis leg refers to the shaking of the leg when you get super pumped climbing, caused by lactic acid buildup combined with your brain struggling to tell your muscles what to do under heavy stress. This combined with raised elbows are two signs a climber is getting super pumped. Mellow is a climbing media collection based on YouTube, mainly started by Sean Raboutous, with other pros like Giuliano and Daniel Woods heavily involved. Mellow has evolved to become the go-to platform for hard bouldering ascents. Charles Albert, also known as Barefoot Charles, is a V17 boulderer from France who is famous for climbing without shoes. He has put up two boulders which he both suggested to be V17, though one of them has gotten downgraded. Not sure if it was played up for the Real Rock special, but he also lived in a cave in Fontainebleau. Johnny Dawes is a legendary British rock climber mostly known for climbing very hard grades without using his hands. He also had the first ascent of Indian Face, which was the first route to be given the grade E9. Many people know that the air in climbing gyms can be very rough. This is mostly down to the chalk, though a recent study has shown that also the rubber from climbing shoes and plastic from climbing holds contribute to the bad air quality. Climbing shoes is realistically made of the same stuff as in tires, which, fun fact, contributes to around 5% of air pollution, again highlighting the importance of air circulation in gyms. Mori is a shorter climber being 5'1". At the Paris Olympics final Boulder One, Mori could not jump to the starting holds. Controversy arose as spectators could not understand how the setters could forget to take this into account. Brooke Raboutous, who is 5'2", did reach the starting holds. Though I don't doubt a 1 foot difference could make or break the boulder, the current consensus seems to say that Mori could have reached the starting holds if she simply jumped higher. Prize pools in climbing have been notoriously low. Winning an IFSC World Cup seems to net you around $2,500. It does seem to be getting better, and climbers do make more or most of their money through sponsorships, but still this is laughably low. It has become well known that the appearance of a climbing gym in your neighborhood is the go-to sign of gentrification, which basically just means the influx of a wealthier demographic, often also resulting in the displacement of the poorer demographic. The Sisu Project refers to a boulder located in Finland first tried by Nalle Hukataval in 2010. If ascended, would likely be the hardest boulder grade currently, estimated to be around V18, possibly even V19. Nalle's description of the moves makes it seem impossible. Other climbers such as Aidan Roberts have also tried it without success. Alex Honnold has many times stated that a lot of his free soloist friends are dead, but that they haven't died from free soloing, but rather other extreme sports and accidents. Dan Osmond died from rope swinging, Wiley Stick while acclimatizing in the Himalayas, and Dean Potter, known for free soloing with a parachute, died from base jumping with a wingsuit. This could lead you to the argument that free soloing is the safest extreme sport. Drew Ruana is a pro climber who has sent an insane amount of hard grades. If you were to look at a list of hard boulders located in Colorado, Ruana is likely to have a repeat or first ascent of the boulder. This is because Ruana is trying to do every V14 and harder boulders that are located in Colorado. After every comp favoring a certain style, there are always claims of biased setting. It has been especially relevant when the setter has any relation to the climber who wins. This was the case in Prague this year when Mejdi Shek won. Setting was very dynamic. Personally, I don't hold much merit to these claims, as again, it happens every comp, especially if there's an upset. Outside rock climbing is not subject to any drug testing. It has been rumored that some of the elite climbers may be on PEDs or performance enhancing drugs. Though climbing is more dependent on finger strength, something like taking testosterone would not have the same impact as it has on the sport of bodybuilding, for example. The world of PEDs is complicated and ever expanding. It is not out of the question that a PED could have an effect on joints and ligaments. After the Russian invasion, the superstar climber Alex Megos housed Ukrainian climbers and their families in Germany, totaling 15 Ukrainians. It was later released that Megos started dating one of these women who he had housed. This became problematic because of the large age difference and the fact that the female climber had lived at his house when she was underage. Though not illegal or necessarily bad by itself, imagine being a war refugee dating one of the most famous climbers in the world, who is also almost 10 years older than you, who is also housing you. The fire was further stoked when a Redditor received threats of legal action from someone claiming Alex Megos was being slandered. This gave room to memes such as this. Again, allegations, don't take anything I say here literally. The specific locations of some of the hardest boulders are gatekept by climbers at the elite level. At one point in time, the specific location of Megatron V17 was gatekept, though it seems like even this one is a Google search away nowadays. This is done to prevent people who have no intention of trying the boulder to touch and consequently grease and break down the rock over time. Since the Russian invasion, all Russian athletes are barred from competing in IFSC World Cups, at least under the Russian flag. There is an ongoing debate whether Israeli athletes should also be put in the same situation, something that became especially relevant when Israeli athlete Oren Prihed made it into World Cup and was named Athlete of the Week in the middle of the Gaza humanitarian crisis. In all likelihood, Saeed Belhaj and Rich Simpson both faked climbing Action Direct, the world's first 9A. The randomness of the two different super strong athletes, both making false send claims on the same route, has made Action Direct a joke within the climbing community that is often brought up when climbers talk about the lack of ascent evidence. Bolts, the metal circles you clip into when lead climbing, are usually very safe, though there have been some rare extreme cases around them. Among them are bolts simply falling out when weighted. These cases are likely due to bolts becoming loose due to being old, rusty and corroded. Another freak case happened to this climber where a quick draw was rightfully and thoroughly placed but still got unclipped from the bolt. As climbing is very dependent on weight, eating disorders are common, especially true on the competitive and elite level. I don't want to name specific athletes, but I believe even in the pro scene today there are athletes on podiums with pretty obvious EDs. It does seem like the IFSC is trying to combat this, though they could definitely do better. I recommend watching this video where Alex Megos and Dr. Volko discuss this subject more thoroughly. Johnny Bryan is a climbing commentator known for his inexperience with the sport. Bryan has commentated climbing for over 10 years but lacks basic knowledge of the sport.
And a Gaston, which people will be excited to hear about, which means they have to have an upside down underclick.
Climbers like Sean and Nalle have notoriously been late in releasing information about hard sends. This has made some theorize whether V18, what would become the hardest grade climbed, has already been climbed, but that the ascender has just yet to publish their ascend. Tito Traversa was an Italian 12-year-old climber who died after falling 15 meters. The quick draws Tito used were not assembled correctly, where the rubber straps were connected directly to the carabiner seen in this picture here, basically used straight out of the packaging. 5 people were charged with manslaughter involving the company that produced the quick draws, and the shop owner who sold the quick draws without instructions on proper assembly. Also, the trip organizers and instructors at the scene were charged. Many climbing routes are scenic and beautiful places. This has sadly resulted in plenty of people choosing to commit Sudoku at famous crags, which is what the jumps are referring to here. This has also caused the side effect of other climbers finding bodies and such at the crag. The most common way to fall in climbing gyms is just outright forgetting to clip into the Autobelay. Still, there are some free cases. This was like what happened to Michael Vandeveer in a Seattle gym, who clipped in, but still took a 30-foot fall, surviving, but with pretty massive injuries. The gym and Autobelay manufacturer entered a settlement for $6 million, the largest ever climbing-related lawsuit. The weird thing is that the defenders alleged Michael was only partly clipped in. I chose to mention this case because it is more nuanced and set a pretty insane legal precedent for Autobelays. There are cases of Autobelays literally just not working, resulting in fatal accidents. Bolt wars refers to a period in Colorado in the early 2000s when climbers fought over bolting locations. Removing or installing bolts was done back and forth as in a war, disagreeing over bolting ethics. This had a bloody ending where the climber Sean Snyder was arrested and convicted after swinging a hammer at the climber who he had disagreed with on bolting. Thank you guys so much for watching.